So plant medicine is as old as humans.
Right.
You know, like it's older than humans, like whatever. Proto-humans, animals, you know, would have psychedelic experiences. Like that's, you know, this is just in nature.
Right.
And, you know, and over the course of human experience, it became formalized, ritualized, and, you know, ceremony arose, and so it's ancient.
Right.
So it's not a new thing. We get into the 50s and 60s, and you can make synthetic variants or synthetic compounds that have these effects, and there's some fascinating experiments, fascinating results. The government and Intel's in there in kind of an interesting way that's not fully understood with what I believe some nefarious intent, but it's a very fruitful, creative experience, and yet it's at the margins. And then somehow a premise is introduced, and it's enforced. And the premise is that psychedelics are always and in every instance harmful.
Right.
And in fact, if they are left unchecked, they will be dangerous to the fabric of society.
Right. Exactly. That's how it's done.
And that's how, like, wow, how did Timothy Leary go from, like, how did he was literally public enemy number one.
Right.
Like, you know, Nixon declared him to be the most dangerous man in America. Like, really? Like, how's that even possible? You know, he said, and this is, I didn't quite realize it. I actually had this discussion with RP about, like, I didn't realize to the extent he was villainized. Like,
yeah.
But, you know, 2 years before, a couple of years before he was public enemy number one, he was testifying to Congress in a suit, talking about the absolute necessity of set and setting for psychedelic, for any kind of psychedelic experience, and how he believed that it was paramount that it be integrated into the medical system under medical supervision, and that these powers needed to be, you know, that they had great potential, but they needed to be brought forth in a responsible manner. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? How did he get vilified? Yeah. He was saying the exact right thing. Now, I mean, what's the truth about psychedelics? It's the truth about anything powerful. It can heal or it can harm.
Right.
And yet somehow, and this is a trick that that's the world we live in, you pick the harm side of it and you introduce that as the starting premise, and then you hold it, and if you hold it for long enough, it becomes a paradigm.
Right. Everything collects around it to support it and reify it and make it seem real.
Exactly. Right. And so, you know, now we're decades later, you know, and there's been a lot of work, you know, and that, you know, and there was continuing work, you know, and there are people all along the way understood, like, you know, that's nonsense. It's not going to rip society apart. And Tim Leary actually had the right idea, and, you know, let's responsibly study it. And so it's now getting the point. At some point, pharma's going to figure out, well, you know, we can transactionalize this.
I think they figured that out.
Suits us. And so, right.
I think we're at that point.
Yeah,
yes.
you know, and so it'll get rolled out. And so it's progressively being destigmatized, and so the premise is shifting.
Right.
But for
it's getting destigmatized as it's getting neutered.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Right. It's going to be brought in a neutered form.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can't have spontaneous acts of human liberation